There's a note on the fridge with my pen scratching.
Howdy y'all, I'm Geno Peoples, and we fixed to get on this building again. Said building, cabin, building, whatever. We're gonna have fun with it. Let's get back to it. Come on in. All right. So as we did last time, we did the roof, and I was showing y'all a lot about that and the emphasis on the corners and all that. We're just going to continue on. I obviously haven't touched it. I've worked on some other things like details with the edge of the trees, what I call the shadow foliage. It's just as important as the highlights. These back, I just call them the shadow foliage, and it's where they don't get much light or something else is blocking them, so they stay dark. But the details on those are still important. As you can see, some of these right here hasn't been done. Just to give you an idea while we're there, then we'll get to the cabin. I kind of drop them in here like this. They're negatives, but they're just as important as the lit ones. You just throw them in there like that, just kind of rough it in. Everything's in a rough in stage early on. I got what I call the last 5 hours of a 100-hour painting, which this one's going to have a lot more than 100 hours in it, but those are the important hours when you start bringing all the detail together. So anyway, all right, so back to the roof, and what I'm fixing to do here is start continuing with my darks and get those back in there. So we simply just come in here and I start lining these back out. And like I've told y'all before, it's just constantly sculpting the picture out. You're constantly picking and picking and picking. Now you can see right here where I showed on the last video how I do the shadows where you can still see them. Then all I do is come back in here and just get those a little bit deeper right in here, but it still has the shadow effect, because when you have a shadow, everything in a shadow becomes darker. So these lines wouldn't be any different. They just become more darker. We're going to keep throwing that detail to it. And as I put these darks back in, you'll really see the picture start to enrich. And it makes the lights better when you start highlighting. It all works hand in hand. It all works together. If you didn't watch the last video, or if you're new, art, in my opinion, is a building process. And when you first start, you just want to have fun. If you've never painted before, you just want to start off by having fun. Don't get frustrated. Practice. Keep knowing that you're growing. You're trying to get better at it. And it's a building process. And early on, I don't worry about everything being just perfect. I try to get a good rough in. A lot of people think at this point I'm actually, finishing, but I'm not even close to finishing. Hey, buddy, my little cat just jumped up here on my table. His name's Rembrandt. He likes to get up here, and I think he calls himself painting anyway. But he puts a smile on my face most days until he wants to come in here and try to tear up one of my paintings. Then we got a problem. So, nah, he's a good cat. He knows better. He's been taught not to mess with stuff. So, as you can see, these darks, they really start bringing in the detail. And if you notice, as I'm putting these darks on, the shingle itself starts to get lighter looking, and that's just because you're adding the darks, which makes the lights look a little bit lighter. This part can be very, very fun, and it can also have its frustrating moments too, so you just got to keep working, plugging along. Alright, so now I'm going to start adding a little bit of highlights to this. We don't want to go nuts with it, but I do want to bump this up, so I'm going to take that line out right there and this one. I got them a little bit too close together, so I need to stretch it just a little bit. But that's what I was saying earlier. Don't worry if you get into a position where you feel like you messed up. Just hit it again, darken it in, whatever you got to do. It's not something you got to sit here and worry about. Just let it do its thing. It's going to all come together and it's going to all be all right. Then I'll just come back in here and kind of give me that shingle look. We'll just make this. This is the closer one, and I kind of wasn't thinking about that. These have to get a little bit bigger as they come down, so we're in pretty good shape right there. Now, as you can see, all I want to do is I want to keep a shingle feel to it. Let me bring in the bigger, a little bit there. I'm going to get my cutter brush out real quick. It'll feel in a little bit faster where I got off on that. There we go. All right, back to the blacks. I got to put that. It's not actually black, it's Payne's gray. I don't use a black. I use Payne's gray because it has a blue tint to it. Never seen anything that's really black unless it's just absolute negative darks where no light can get to it. If there's any kind of light hitting anything that's dark, you're usually going to see a little bit of a bluish tint, and that's why I just stay with Payne's gray. Now up under here, you can call that black, whatever you want. Those are called negative areas. They're just, you just want those to stay dark, but they're going to help a lot of things in this picture. Dark areas are your friend. That's where you can really knock out some highlights if you want to show something. All right, without going too extreme on the light parts. So last week we talked about, or the other day, we talked about highlights. So if you'll watch, just over them darks is where I'm going to put my highlights. So I find my darks and I go just above that, and that's going to show the end of that shingle. And that's where your detail starts coming in. I see a lot of artists over details their shingles on the roofs. It's very easy to do, and I've done it several times myself. But you can see where my shadow is, so I'm going to keep that good highlight from getting up in there too much. I'm going to stay out here where the light is trying to work on this roof. And as you can tell, I don't know if you've seen the picture as a whole, but we have an early morning light coming through there, so there will be some oranges on all this. We got to bring them colors in to keep that cresting light. But right now I'm just focusing on getting a good rough in with this roof, making these shingles start to work for us. Then you'll start seeing that detail start to pop. Now right in here, as I said before in another video, what we want to really do, we want to show what that shingle's actually doing by going under the one on top. And I do that by just driving them right up under that one behind it, like that. And you get that shingle feel like they're overlapping. Now as I come across here with this highlight, you'll really start to see this roof start to come in. And I'm not worried about getting it too light right now. I do what I call a glaze. So I will come back in and soften and change color if necessary. But that's for another video, how I do my glazing work. But there's a lot of steps to this. I'm really starting to like this painting. And if you didn't hear, I'm going to be competing in the Ducks Unlimited with this painting. And I couldn't think of a better painting to start my first video off with, my first paint videos off with, than the one I'm going to be trying to compete with. Wouldn't that be something if we won the Ducks Unlimited with the first art video? There's some very good artists out there though, so you just never know. All you can do is compete and hope them judges see it my way. All right, so I like corners. Anytime I got a corner, I really like to emphasize really good highlights and really let you see that. So I'm gonna go a little bit lighter right now. Now all this will change, most of it changes. There's very few times that I do something where it stays just like I started it off with. It's usually gonna have several changes as I start doing my detail. And that's why I say I don't worry too much at this part and at this point. I don't really worry too much about straight lines and all that. There's so many moving parts still on this painting that this is really early on. And the more you paint, the more you understand that. But you can see I'm just making them highlights. I'm making the viewer see what I want them to see. So up here I'm going to just start coming in here with this highlight. Might be a little too much. Let's back it off a little bit. All I'm going to do is take a little bit of Payne's Gray in my brush and just kind of tone it down. I would say never, but that would be saying something. But most of the time, I don't pre-mix anything, especially with landscapes. Colors change. I do all of my blending on the canvas pretty much. Nothing's ever pre-mixed. That keeps everything looking natural. So what I'm going to do now is add a little more Payne's Gray to my gesso, and in these shaded areas I don't want them to be as highlighted, so I just kind of knock down the highlights where I barely can see the details and let that light work on the outside edges where the light's hitting it. But just because something's in a shade or in a shadow area don't mean you don't see it at all. So I hope y'all can see it. It's close enough. You're starting to feel that shade work for me. Like up in here, there is areas that get absolutely no light, but it's more rare than often. So, and I can always come back in here and tone these down if need be. That's starting to look like a pretty good roof right there. All right, so now we're gonna go ahead and start darkening down our facial board right here. I'm going to use some browns like we did on our woodwork. We want to keep that all pretty much the same. So I'm going to take a little Payne's Gray, little burnt umber, and I'm going to start getting these facial boards in here. And like I said, I don't worry about being so much perfectly straight at this point, but I do want to get filled in a little bit. Now this facial board right here, obviously, the way my light is, from this corner over, this is going to catch that light coming in there. So that facial board is going to have a lot of light on it. So I want to keep it light. We don't want to get it too dark. And I'll drive my darks in where necessary. Now right up under that will be some dark, and then we'll have shingles again, but I'm going to go ahead and get this outside pieces. So I'm going to darken down my browns quite a bit because they wouldn't be, too bright. They're going to stay toned down, just like that would only make sense. Won't be as dark as underneath here, but as you can tell, it's shaded down right now. I love these liner brushes. All you gotta do is put a slight bend to them, and you can pretty much do whatever you want to with those. So a lot of it's just years of working with these brushes and knowing exactly the feel of them, and the more bends you put into it, the thicker you can make this brush work. And it to be so thin, you'd be surprised how thick of a line you can really make with them. Now you can see here, I haven't got my dark on the outside of this roof, so it's going to look like I'm not maximizing this point right here, but I am. Main part I want to keep straight is where I drew it out earlier. I'm going to get rid of that white line now. Come right in there. Now that's a facial board right there, and it's pretty, and it's going to be the separators from my roofs. So very important. Now I'm going to take some dark. I'm going to drive those home, and that's what I was talking about earlier, where you don't have to be so perfect with your lines early on, because this is what helps you straighten them lines back out. And that's just years of doing it too, is knowing when you can get away with something and when you can't, because I am a perfectionist, if y'all haven't noticed. But I make light work of it because I don't like to worry about, I pretty much feel like I can fix anything on here. Certain areas, now I wouldn't want to make a mistake out there in my sky. You know, that wouldn't be good. But anything in here can be refixed by whatever's behind it. So when I'm in my tree areas and all, there's not much to worry about. If I got to bring that roof in or whatever, or out, I ain't losing anything. So it's just knowing where you can worry or where you shouldn't worry. But overall, I'm not going to let much of it get to me anyway, because I want to have fun doing this. The day I don't have fun doing this, I won't do it no more. I love to paint, and I can be anywhere in the world if I want to be. All I got to do is pick a place and paint it, and I can be there. All right, so this roof, honestly, would cause a slight shadow on that facial board. So I'm just going to come up in here with this smaller liner brush and just kind of work me a little shadow in there. Like so. Now there wouldn't be that much shadow, but I like to overshadow and then come back in and cut that facial board in with the width that I'd like to do. And that's what I was telling y'all about straight lines earlier. Don't put too much emphasis on that. There's so many different ways you can work it. So then I'll come back out here, and now I have a shade on that facial board as well. That looks good. And this black line is going to take another shot because I outline them with white when I draw these out. That way I can work my background without losing my building. Let's just call it a cabin. I keep saying log cabin because that was my original ideal, to make it a log cabin. But they're all cabins. Now my facial board, go back in there with that. Don't want to get it too bright. That's a little too bright. Let's add a little more, dim it down. So I can take that little wobble out now. But honestly, y'all, I haven't seen many old cabins that's got any kind of use out of them. Perfect straight lines. Alright, so that's looking pretty good. Now we're going to drive our darks back up under here where that facial board is. And then we'll make that roof come on out right there. Like I said, this last one right here, you really want to use that dark. That just really separates that roof. And there will be many, many more hours going back in here and, you know, fixing this, fixing that. It's kind of like a real house. You're constantly working on it. It's always a work in progress. My wife always finds things for me to do, it seems like. Can you work on the gate? Can you do this? Yeah, well, I'm trying to make paint videos right now. How about that one? And she's got to keep me busy doing something. Alright, so the easy patch for this roof, and obviously it's coming straight out at us, so you're not going to see a whole lot. But what you do see, it needs to be done right. I'm going to get my cutter brush. A little bit bigger one that's going to cover more paint. So I'm just going to come in here, and because we know we're going to have a lot of shingle right through here. So I'm just going to kind of thicken it up so I can work out on my darks. So now we're getting down to the nitty gritties to rough in. So saving all that like I've been doing so I knew right where it was at was important, but now it's time to fill it in. And y'all trust me, I'm still trying to get used to working around a camera, so I don't get positioned the way I would like to if I wasn't filming. But I'm learning, I'm getting better at it. Y'all can just grow with me on that one. It's growing pains. Now we're going to let that kind of set a little bit and dry. What I can do is go ahead and get my facial board looking a little better. And this color might change, y'all. I am I change my mind a lot. So I'm liable to get in here and say, you know, I want to paint those blue, my facial boards, or a green, or, you know, get colorful. Who knows? I let paintings talk to me. I know that sounds strange, but to me, going into a painting, if I've ever went into a painting, I don't know about it, where I knew where I was going from the start. I have a general idea, and I do my research. I know what I want to do, but to sit here and say I know exactly how it's going to end up, I ain't never done one like that. I let the painting talk to me, and I give it what it needs. All you gotta do is just, you know, pay attention. It'll talk to you. Yeah, we're starting to get there now. I'm liking that. All right, so now it's time. We're going to come in here and throw some wood while that's drying up there a little bit. I don't want to keep playing in mud. But I'm going to keep my wood back here kind of dark, as you can tell, because that's, you know, the light can't really get back in here. So I'm just going to, all I really want to do here, you can see that's going to be where my shade of that roof's going to be. So what I want to do here is just kind of give me some strokes, and I want to stay straight. That's the main thing I want to do here, is just, you know, keep my woodwork straight. I'm going to take a little bit of light, and I like to use Naples yellow with wood, especially old wood. You can, that Naples yellow now, it's a good. But yeah, I just want to kind of put a little bit of light right in here and just keep my wood kind of going straight. That's really the object or the goal before I start actually putting my lines in it. There we go. Now I'm going to put some color in it. That Naples yellow, to me, man, at one point I heard they was going to, you know, they was talking about getting rid of it. And that goes back with the old masters. Naples yellow's been around a long time, and it's a color I really use a lot. Anything with wood, I love Naples yellow. And a lot of my highlights, which you'll see when I get to that boat, a lot of my highlights are done with Naples yellow. And then I'll take the colors that I want to use and I'll work those into it. That's kind of how I like to do stuff like that. Now up here I'm just going to kind of get an idea of exactly where I want my wood to be. Then I'll do a glaze later and just cover that all down. That's really starting to get that look that I want. But remember what I said earlier, this is where my shade of my building changes. So I want to keep it dark. That just leads the brain into knowing that that's a shadow turn from my light source, which on my building obviously is going to be the sun. Now if I come in here and I start putting my man-made lights, lamps, lanterns, that can put light back on that. But for now I have to stay dark on this back side of this building. So now I'm going to come in here and leak, you know, not really mildew, but it's where rain and weather blows up against it. So I like to kind of work it where it looks like it's run down the building a little bit. That's how I like to make stuff look old. But you can really, really get caught up in overthinking or not doing anything. I say when you get stuck, just start moving your brush. You'll start feeling something. Starting to get that old textured look now. I'm liking that. All right, so back to the facial board. Now we want to start getting a little bit more color on that. I'm going to use a little bit of red or burnt sienna, earth tone red. I'm going to come in here and just kind of pop a little bit of color. It don't take much to separate from that roof gray, see? Gives you that little bit of color on there, little separator. That burnt sienna is about as natural earth tone as you're going to get. It's one of my favorites I like to use for anything woodsy. Now we'll go across the front. I'm going to throw a little bit of orange on here. You can see where my building's picking up some orange from the sun. So that only makes sense. So this is where I'm going to start straightening up that roof I was telling y'all about earlier, where I don't worry about it so much. Well, now it's time to worry. Now it's time to start, you know, cleaning that part up. We don't want the carpenter to look bad. I got some carpenter friends, I promise you, probably screaming at me right now. You need to fix that roof. There we go. It's starting to come in now, y'all. Really starting to like it. Trying not to get in the picture, y'all, so y'all forgive me. There we go. Yeah, I'm starting to like that. And while we're at it, we'll go ahead and hit this bottom. Now I have all this dark down here to keep that bottom straight, so mostly what I want to do is just focus on that top part. Wait till we put all the goodies on that porch, y'all. That really starts to get to be fun. Now I like all the painting. I like the start, the finish. I like it all, but I gotta be honest, when you start getting everything roughed in, you really start feeling like you're sitting here. You're really inside this painting and you're starting to feel everything. That's when you get to add all the goodies to it. And y'all, there ain't nothing better than that. Remember what I said about the ends? I like to really emphasize light and dark. That's what shows that difference right now. We ain't put anything here yet, but that just kind of gives you that little emphasis feel. That's them highlights. And it just really shows a difference of where your change of lighting is. And let the viewer really see that change of light. And then, you know, I'll get it really, really close later in the very end parts, but for now, that's pretty close change right there. And you just play with it. But that Naples yellow will kind of lighten you up a little bit where you can just kind of tone it as you go. And then you'll put the little wood knots and stuff in there, all the little details later. But for now, that's pretty close. Might have got a little high on this lip. So I just come in there and just play with it. Like I said, there's no worries. Don't let anything get to you. You just play with it. You can just tone it right on down. No biggie. See, we're going to have some light on that bottom anyway. But there's just so much left to do. Now, let's go ahead and start putting some lines in here, because I'm sure if y'all like me right now, you're saying, when's he going to put lines in that thing? I think we can go ahead and do that right now. Kind of get an idea about our wood, see. Very rarely do I sketch any of this. I already kind of got an idea of what I want to do. And I like my stuff to look really nice. I don't like to just throw lines in here and just, well, y'all know what that is. No, it needs to be right. That should line up, and see when I start outlining them windows, that'll have a pretty nice look to it. But I'll just kind of stay with my window just like a framer would do, you know. It usually works out pretty good. I'm gonna have so many wood changes on this thing, I just want to kind of get an idea of what it's looking like. That looks pretty good. Now I can come back up in here and start putting some more darks in here where my roof's going to be. Like I said, I like to work out of my darks. I'm going to drive that on in there. But as these darks and lights start coming together, you're starting to see the sharpness of everything. It's important. I'm going to put another little bit up in here. I really want to drive this in right here where that roof kind of ties in. And I'll shadow it up later. Don't want to lose that. Yeah, really starting to like that. Alright, so these trees out here, it wouldn't hurt to go ahead and get them up to date. I'm still not done with none of this back in here either, but we can go ahead and start getting this foreground. It's got a good rough in that background. So I'm going to start putting a little bit of color on these trees. This can be kind of fun too. And I don't like to do anything perfect at first. I like to just kind of rough it in, get a feel. That Naples yellow is going to look a little bright right now, but that's how I like to do it. I like to just go ahead and separate it from that background. I'm just going to come in there and just kind of start putting it on there. Nothing major, just a couple little licks here and there. That's going to have a really nice look. Another thing too, y'all, is I don't know what y'all are into, what y'all like to paint, but it's important. Oops, sorry about that. It's important that whatever you paint your subject, you know a little bit about it. If you've never done it, like I've done some Italy pictures and some cottages, like Thomas Kincaid used to do a lot of. My company wanted me to do a bunch of those. Well, honestly, y'all, I ain't got much experience with overseas. I paint a lot of Americana stuff. But when they ask, I kind of got to go to work and do it. I got to make a living. And I pretty much got to paint what sells. So what I'm trying to say, I guess, is if you can paint what you know, it's going to make life a little easier. If not, you're going to have to go to the study book. Because you need to know what you're painting to be able to paint it properly. So I end up doing a lot of research when it's things I don't know much about. That's all part of it, though. I actually enjoyed doing that Italy stuff so much, I'm going to do a few more of those. That was kind of a romantic feel. And the history. And you couldn't beat the history on it. So as you see, I just kind of highlight it just enough where I can get that feel that it's coming out of my background. Nothing's ever just straight, smooth lines. It's a tree. Trees move, trees bend. So I just kind of love taps. Just little love taps, show it you love it. And it'll start talking to you. It'll tell you where you need this or where you need that. Yeah, there we go. They're starting to look like trees now. Now I'm going to go really hard with my darks on the back sides. And that'll really start pushing them towards the light. There will be a point when you get to your dark areas that you start to lose it. The only thing you really see is the highlights. That's a natural look. I will show y'all how I do backlighting later too in another video. What I call wraparound light. I use a lot of, like in this picture, you usually go with your sky colors. This picture I'll use a lot of purple. Docks and purple, a little bit of magenta, and you'll get that wraparound light, especially with trees. This one's pretty big, you'll get a little bit of it, but that's where you see that separation of backlighting. It's some good stuff. Now those are starting to show up a little bit. I don't do my limbs until after I've got my foliage where I like it. I always had a tendency when I first started painting, because I'm self-taught, and I had a tendency to want to cotton ball my limbs. So as you can see, you'll just see a main base. And then later on I go in there and I feed the painting with my limbs. On the private art lessons I'll be showing y'all stuff like that. It'll be just a lesson on how I paint trees. And to get really detailed in those. Alright, so that looks pretty good, but see, I'll start having these limbs that, and they'll start doing like that, and that's when it really starts getting to be fun. We just ain't at that point yet, so I don't want to get too happy with that and get ahead of myself. Y'all are pumping me up having an audience. I ain't really had that kind of advantage since I've been painting. I've been painting all these years, and I should have been doing this a long time ago. But I'm going to do a few just so I can start to get a feel for this tree. And you just have fun. Limbs are limbs. They do all kind of things. But what I was going to say is I live in the woods. I hunt. I fish. And when I'm out there, I might not have my camera, but I am constantly looking at the way limbs move, the way light dances off of them. So I have a lot of knowledge in my head of what limbs and trees and what they do. So it makes it a lot easier when you understand your subjects. And I spend a lot of time in tree stands, so I get a lot of knowledge just sitting there. I ain't got nothing else to do. I read a little bit, read books and stuff, but as an artist, I get a lot of benefit out of just looking at what's around me. So important. Make that limb show up. We got good lighting in this picture. I love to do twilight time because you get to play with a lot of light. Man, I am beating y'all up with this camera. Sorry about that. Alright, so this roof now, it is coming right at us. So you're not going to see like this. You're getting to see it flat on like this, where this one's coming out at us. So there's not much there to see. So how do we do that? Well, I'm fixing to show you. We're going to start off with some light gray. That's why I darkened it. So that gives us our shadow effects and our layers. There's not going to be many layers to see, so I want to focus on this front part. So I'll do it first. So I just come right in here like this. There ain't a whole lot you can do. I mean, you're talking, I don't know if y'all can tell, but I might have 1/8 of an inch right here to work with. It's not much at all. But it's going to give me that effect. And when I come out here, that's going to be the telltale. So right back in here, I might be able to show a little bit more, just enough to give the effect of a bunch of shingles. That's really all you can do at that point, this early in it. It's all an illusion. But if you want to know what I'm talking about, take not your middle finger, that would be kind of stupid, but take one of your fingers, your index finger, and just point at yourself. And point straight at your eyes. And that's kind of what we're doing with this. It's straight on. In deer hunting, I call it straight on, live long. But that's kind of the effect you get. And then there's other things I can do later on. This is just the rough end, but you start working these darks, and it's always going to be about them corners, like I was telling y'all. So now as we come out here on this end, this is where you get a little bit of help with your shingles. I'm going to darken this in right here, and it'll be an extension of darks, so that helps us be able to see a little bit more. You'll see that continuation here, and that's really helpful when you have a roof that's, straight on. Don't give you a whole lot to look at. Yeah, there we go. And you really got to keep these darks working for you. So I need to really get in here. And see right in there, you want to have some of these, they're wood shingles. For you new people that probably ain't watched the other video, these are wooden shingles, or going to be when I'm done. So they'll have a little more of a thickness to them. But as you can see, these layers that I'm putting on, you're really starting to see that dark and that light starting to work for us. And it just keeps cutting the details out with them shingles. The more you do, the sharper it gets. Think about them TVs we used to buy, Now they got them. We was paying like $5,000-$6,000, 10, 15 years ago for these high HD with high resolution, and now you can get them for almost nothing because of the technology. But that's what we're doing in art, basically. We keep layering and layering and layering, and it gets tighter and tighter and tighter. And the details really start showing up. That's why you have to be patient. Take your time, enjoy the ride, and let the art do what it's supposed to do. probably one of the biggest things I can tell you this video is be patient, follow the technique, and enjoy it. It's definitely a building process. Yeah, we're getting sharper and sharper now. And y'all can see how I can come back in here and I can straighten everything just with my darks. And that's why early on I don't worry about lines and straightness, because I play with that as I go. Alright, let's see if we can do a little bit of woodwork up here. Just want to kind of see what we got going on. I don't want to be so black though. I want to have my cracks tightened down just a little bit of maybe a darker brown, kind of like that. I like to do these before I put my before I frame out the window. I like to kind of go ahead and start getting these in there. Just want to get an idea, and I might not even go this direction. Y'all could come back on here in a few days and see that I've changed it to a log cabin. I'm known for doing that, so. But right now, I think I'm going to stay with this. It looks good. I do change my mind a lot, though. Yeah, that looks pretty good. So we'll just keep riding that horse. And as y'all can see, no worries, just have fun. Throw it in there. I'm gonna clean up anything that gets a little off. I just clean it up later. Add or take away. Straighten my wood up later on when I start actually painting the wood pieces. So I can tell you right now, this has got to come out. It's shifted on me. We'll go ahead and shift that right now so y'all can see what I'm talking about. Let me get this wood piece set up. Had to mix several colors for that one. So what I do is I come out here and I just extend this piece where it got off. Just bring it out like that. So I'm really going to want to show some light hitting this wood in the front, because that light's going to be coming like this. So I'm going to need all of that I can get. I had a little boo-boo right there. I'm out painting my paint drying. There we go. That's starting to look pretty good. Now, before I get off this video, I want to show y'all one more thing where I actually would take my chalk pencil, because I'm going to start putting my support beams. Alright, so a lot of people say, well, dang, I don't want to put it right there because it's going to be right in the way of my door. Let me tell y'all something. It is what it is. You see how this roof right here has a slight overhang towards the outer, and it's even going to go a little bit further. But my post would be right here at my bottom. But we want that roof to be further than the bottom, because that keeps that's the whole idea, is to keep the, if you were shorter, you'd get a wet porch. We don't want that. So it should be a little bit longer. So we're looking at a post right there. Once I understand that, my steps are going to be over here, y'all. So just to give y'all a quick little idea of how this is going to work. And I work out of my head, so it's going to be something like that. And then we'll have our steps in here. So I ain't going to have steps in the front. We're going to have some bushes. So I don't really have to worry about lining up where my steps would be on this front porch. So this one's pretty simple as far as that goes. Because that's a whole nother ball game. Because your steps wouldn't be where the door is. It's an angle. Now, I know y'all probably already know that, but believe it or not, trying to get this on here, it's an act, okay? So what I would do at that point, my door is not really centered with my building back there anyway. It's offset. So what I would do here is I would find center back here which would probably be right about here. That's how much I'm offset. That would be the center of my back. And what here, I would do the same thing. I'd find center. And that would be the center of my steps. So I would come off to the sides like this if I was putting steps in it, and it would be somewhere in there. Just wanted to kind of throw that at y'all while we was doing this. It's just chalk pencil. I ain't hurting anything. That's how I add my people and stuff into my paintings later anyway. Man, I keep bumping that camera. I'm so sorry, y'all. I'm gonna get better at all this, y'all. Just bear with me. But anyway, we don't have to worry about that problem. So I'd come over here, this corner post right here, say I'm just inside. That's how I would have probably built it. Oh, look at there. It lines up right with my window. Well, a lot of people will say, that ain't good. Well, by the time I put my windows on here, y'all see what I'm saying? That would be into the middle of that anyway. But anyway, it don't really matter. So if I could go with log posts, just round posts. I can make them square. I can do anything, but right now I just want to kind of mark them. So that's my two end ones. You know, you got that. We already said where our middle one's at. Well, if I just put two more support beams, I know I'm going to be somewhere right in here. And then I'd be somewhere, I'd probably be lined up with that. Probably going to be right there in that window. It's a little bit closer to me. So I'm going to be right in there. That's going to give me my 4 posts. And then you got to have your supports under here. So I'm just sketching out right now just to kind of give y'all an idea where this is going to go. Y'all can see the post here. It's going to be a little bit bigger. That was just early on. We want those supports to be pretty good. Yeah, have one there. And then obviously one out here on the end. That's what that's kind of going to look like. That's going to be neat when we get to that part. Like I said, I can't wait to get to all of this. Then this would be my side. I'd bring this down like this. That's kind of the look we're looking for. And I'd start off, let's go this way, because I can always make it as long as I want to down there. I have step, step, step. And I'll probably let y'all get to see how I do all that. And then I'm going to have another one back here. That's going to look pretty cool too. General idea, something like that. So all right, y'all, I hope y'all enjoyed the video today. Let me come out of here. Hope y'all enjoyed coming in here and painting with me today. And until I see you again, peace out.
Gone hunting, don't bother me none. The crack of dawn's where my freedom runs. Duck calls, deer tracks are quiet somewhere. I've checked out a life, folks. No worries, no care.